My name is Sarah, and though I am a woman now, with the gentle lines that time carves around the eyes and the quiet wisdom that comes from a life lived with a profound secret, the most important part of my story, the part that fundamentally altered my entire existence, happened when I was only 11 years old. Before that day, my world was a small, perfectly comfortable universe, its boundaries defined by my suburban street, the bustling, colorful aisles of the toy store, and the comforting predictability of my school routine. I loved to draw fantastical creatures, read stories about brave princesses, and spend endless afternoons building magnificent castles out of building blocks. God, to me, was a kind, benevolent figure, a distant, smiling face from the stories my Sunday school teacher told us. He lived in heaven, which I pictured as a place of fluffy white clouds, endless sunshine, and maybe even a giant trampoline. It was a good place, a reward for being good. Jesus was a gentle man who wore robes and told stories about sheep and helped people. My understanding of faith was simple. Be kind, share your toys, obey your parents, and God would be pleased. If you did all that, you'd go to heaven. My mother, a woman of deep, quiet faith, would pray with me every night, teaching me simple verses and telling me to give my worries to God. My worries were small and manageable then. Would I get the new doll for my birthday? Would I pass my math test? My father, a busy engineer, was a man of logic and tangible results. He respected my mother's faith as a beautiful comfort, but didn't quite grasp its practical application beyond morality. He focused on ensuring I had a good education and a stable future. I was a happy child, secure in my world, in my family, in my innocent faith. I believed I understood the rules of the game of life, and I was doing my best to play by them, certain that the ultimate reward was a peaceful, happy eternity. I had no idea that my innocent, simplistic understanding was about to be shattered, and that heaven itself held a message, a terrifying truth about life on earth that would burn away my childhood complacency and set me on a path I could never have imagined. I was about to learn that the most profound terror was not a distant hellfire, but a tragic reality unfolding right here, in the silent spiritual slumber of humanity. The day it happened began like any other crisp autumn morning. I woke up with a dull ache in my head, a feeling like a tight band squeezing my temples. I told my mom I felt a bit sick, hoping, with a child's casual optimism, for a day off school. But this was no ordinary sick day. The ache quickly intensified, becoming a relentless, hammering pain that made the light feel sharp, and every sound a jarring assault. By mid-morning, I had a raging fever, and the world had taken on a strange, distorted quality, like looking through rippling water. I remember my mother's face, her usual calm dissolving into a mask of pure terror, her voice rising in a frantic pitch as she called the doctor. The journey to the hospital was a blur of flashing ambulance lights and a siren that seemed to scream from inside my own skull, amplifying the unbearable pressure building behind my eyes. In the emergency room, everything became a chaotic, dizzying kaleidoscope of blinding white lights, masked faces moving with urgent, desperate energy, and the sharp, clean smell of antiseptic that burned my nostrils. My chest felt like an elephant was sitting on it, heavy and suffocating. I couldn't get enough air. My lungs burned, desperate for oxygen. A kind nurse tried to talk to me, but her voice sounded distant, muffled, as if I were underwater. I saw my mom through a pane of glass, her hands pressed against it, tears streaming down her face, her mouth moving in a silent scream. I wanted to tell her I was scared, that I couldn't breathe, that I was so tired of fighting for air, but I couldn't make any sound. My small body felt like it was shutting down. The pressure in my chest became absolute, overwhelming, a monstrous weight that squeezed the last spark of consciousness from my mind. My last thought, not a prayer, but a childlike whisper of pure exhaustion, was to my mom, "I just want to rest." And then, everything went black. Total, absolute, silent cessation. The pain vanished. The terror vanished. The crushing weight was gone. I was floating. I was perfectly calm, perfectly peaceful, and I was lighter than a feather, drifting effortlessly upward. I was hovering near the ceiling of a bright, busy hospital room. Below me, doctors and nurses were moving with frantic, synchronized energy around a small bed. And on that bed, a little girl lay very still, her chest not moving, her face pale. It was me. I looked at her with a strange, serene detachment, as if she were a doll I had left behind. Her story was over. I saw my mom and dad huddled together in a small waiting room, my dad holding my mom as she sobbed, their faces etched with a grief I instinctively knew was for the still little girl below. I felt a pang of sadness for them, for their pain, but it wasn't my pain. Then, the brightly lit room, the doctors, my parents, all began to fade, the colors washing out into a uniform gray. The beeping of the machines and the hushed voices grew faint and then disappeared entirely. The peaceful detachment shattered, replaced by a growing, creeping dread. I was no longer in the hospital room. I was somewhere else, a place that was vast, empty, and utterly devoid of warmth. It was a realm of cold, sterile gray, a desolate landscape that seemed to stretch into infinite nothingness. This was the space between a cosmic waiting room, but it was not empty. It was filled with shadows. The gray emptiness was not a punishment of fire and demons, not the hell of Sunday school stories. It was something far more subtle and, to a child's heart, far more terrifying. It was the hell of being utterly, completely, and forever alone. In this desolate void, there were no accusers, no monsters with sharp teeth. There was only me, a single, tiny point of consciousness, and the echoing silence of my own soul. A deep, primal terror began to bloom in my heart. The terror of a child who has been abandoned in a place with no landmarks, no sun, and no hope of rescue. Whispers began to form in the silence, not from outside, but from within me. They were my own voice, the secret, shameful thoughts of my 11-year-old heart, magnified to an unbearable volume. You took that extra candy from the bowl when Mom wasn't looking. You drew on the wall in your bedroom and blamed it on the dog. You didn't share your best crayon with Timmy, even though he asked nicely. You only pretended to be sad when Grandma's cat died, because everyone else was crying. These weren't grand sins. They were the small, selfish, thoughtless cruelties and deceptions of a child's life. But here, in this place of absolute reality, each memory felt like a heavy stone, dragging me down into a deeper state of isolation and shame. I realized, with a child's simple, devastating logic, that this profound loneliness was what I had earned. This was the place for girls who were secretly bad, who were selfish, who were not always kind. The terror was overwhelming. It was not the fear of being hurt, but the crushing certainty of never being truly loved again, of being fundamentally unlovable, unwanted, alone forever. There was no one to play with, no one to talk to, no one to comfort me. In the depths of that soul-crushing despair, stripped of my dolls, my crayons, my very identity as a happy child, all my comfortable walls of innocence crumbled. All that remained was a raw, terrified spark of consciousness, a small, lost girl utterly alone in a universe that felt utterly indifferent. My knowledge of stories, of rules, of games, it was all utterly useless. All that remained was a single, desperate, broken plea, a name I had barely whispered with genuine intent in my life, a name that was now my last, desperate hope. It wasn't a formal prayer from Sunday school. It was a pure, unadulterated cry from a truly broken heart. God, please, I'm scared, I don't want to be alone. My cry was a fragile, trembling whisper in the infinite, indifferent silence. And yet, it was a sound that shook the very foundations of that desolate, gray reality. In the center of the emptiness, a single point of light appeared. It was infinitesimally small, yet it pulsed with a warmth that I could feel even across the vast, cold expanse. The shadowy whispers recoiled, their forms dissolving like mist in the face of an impossible dawn. The cold, sterile gray did not flee from the light. It was absorbed by it, transformed, infused with a vibrant, living energy. The light expanded, not like an explosion, but like a sunrise unfolding in fast motion, its colors bleeding into the void, turning the bleak expanse into a landscape of unimaginable beauty. The oppressive silence was replaced by a sound, a low, resonant hum that was the most beautiful music I had ever heard. It was a music that felt like a billion lullabies and 1,000 triumphant anthems all at once. I was no longer in the gray void. I was floating, utterly weightless, immersed in an ocean of this conscious living light. It was pure, unconditional love. A love that knew every hour I had spent playing alone when my mom needed help, every time I had lied, every moment of my profound childish selfishness. It knew all of this, and it held me anyway, without judgment, without condemnation, with a tenderness that shattered my broken heart into a million pieces and then reassembled it, whole and new, cleansed by its embrace. It was the love of a parent who adores their child, not for being perfect, but simply for being. From the heart of this infinite, loving presence, a figure began to coalesce. He was not an old man with a beard, nor a character from a Sunday school story. He was a being of pure, radiant light, vast and powerful, yet whose eyes held an intimacy that made me feel utterly safe, utterly known. His smile was a homecoming, a recognition that pierced my very soul. My soul knew him instantly, with a certainty that made all my games seem like meaningless toys. It was Jesus, but more real and loving than any story had ever told me. He knelt down, so his face, which was made of pure, liquid light, was level with mine. He spoke, not with his mouth, but with a direct flow of understanding into my mind, a voice that was pure love and infinite compassion. "Sarah," he said, and my name in his voice felt like the most precious word in the universe. "I heard you. You are not alone. You are home. I have been waiting for you. All my fear, all my shame, all the crushing weight of my isolation, dissolved like salt in water. I was safe. I was loved. I was home." "Sarah," Jesus said, his presence a constant, warm embrace, his smile holding all the joy of creation. "You have seen the consequence of being separate. Now, let us look at the choices that made the ripples in your short life. Let's see them, not with sadness, but with truth and love." My short, 11-year-old life began to play out around us, not as a recording, but as if we were stepping into the moments themselves. But I was seeing them through his eyes, feeling them from every perspective. We were in our living room. I was 9 years old, and my mom was busy cooking, her back to me. I took an extra cookie from the jar when she said I could only have one. I remembered the small thrill of naughtiness, of getting away with it. But now, Jesus let me feel what my mom felt. Not anger, but a tiny flicker of disappointment when she later saw the missing cookie, a small question about trust. It was a subtle, almost invisible gray ripple I had created with my dishonesty. The scene changed. We were at the school playground. A new girl, Maria, had just joined our class. She sat alone at lunchtime, looking shy and a little sad. I remembered seeing her, feeling a fleeting thought of going to talk to her. But then my best friends called me to play on the swings, and I went, telling myself someone else would be her friend. Now Jesus let me feel what Maria felt. I felt her profound loneliness, her fear, the lump in her throat, the small, sharp pain of feeling invisible. I saw how my small choice had reinforced her feeling of being unwanted, a dark, jagged ripple. Jesus didn't scold me. He simply held my hand, and the love pouring from him was a gentle, healing sorrow that transformed my shame into a desperate longing to make things right, to go back and offer a hand. "You see, little one?" he communicated, his voice infinitely patient. "The ripples are real. Every choice, every non-choice, creates a ripple. The world is a vast ocean, and you are always throwing a stone. The golden ones shimmer with joy and connection, and the gray ones cloud the water with sadness and regret. The greatest sorrow is not in your sins, but in the missed opportunities, the golden ripples you failed to make." We saw other scenes. The time I shared my favorite colorful pencils with a friend who had none, and I was allowed to feel the surge of warmth and pure, unadulterated delight that went through her when she saw the bright colors, a brilliant, golden ripple, expanding far beyond that small moment. The lesson was devastatingly simple. My life wasn't about right or wrong answers in a book. It was about connection. It was about whether I was creating love or letting isolation take root. The greatest sorrow was not in my sins, but in the missed opportunities, the golden ripples I had failed to make. When the life review ended, I was left with a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of everything, and a deep regret for my past thoughtlessness. But the regret was held in the vast, comforting embrace of Jesus' unending love. My Lord, my God, my spirit cried out. I was so busy playing and trying to be good. I didn't know these ripples were so real. What about heaven? Is it only good ripples there? Jesus looked at me, and his smile, which had been so full of joy, now softened into an expression of profound, tender sorrow. His eyes, which had held all the laughter of the universe, now seemed to hold all its quiet sadness, a grief so vast it encompassed all of humanity. Come, my little one, he communicated, his voice heavy, resonant with a beautiful, heartbreaking truth. I will show you the greatest sorrow, the terrifying truth, the truth I wish all my children on earth knew, for it would wake them from their sleep. This is the final prophecy. The radiant landscape of love we were in slowly began to shift, to reconfigure itself. We were looking down upon earth, but it was not the vibrant, colorful world I knew. It was shrouded in a thick, gray haze, a suffocating blanket that distorted everything. I saw cities, still bustling, but the light that should have streamed from them was dim, almost extinguished. The natural world was weeping, its colors muted, its life force struggling. But it was not just the physical world. I saw human beings, millions upon millions of them, but they were not truly interacting. They were surrounded by invisible, flickering screens, their faces illuminated by artificial light, their ears filled with artificial sound. They were talking, but not listening. They were seeing, but not truly looking. They were touching, but not truly connecting. Their hearts, which Jesus had shown me were meant to be burning with golden light, were dull, like embers dying under a thick ash. Their attention was fragmented, their focus stolen by endless streams of trivial information, by the constant chase for more, for better, for next. This is what happens when the ripples of distraction and indifference become a tidal wave, Jesus communicated, his voice a whisper of pure agony, a profound grief that made my small soul tremble. This is the great terror, my beloved child. This is the pandemic of the walking dead. Not the hot sinner who is raging against me, for his passion might one day be turned to love. Not the cold sinner who has given himself to outright darkness, for in his despair he may yet cry out for the light. No, the one who breaks my Father's heart most profoundly is the lukewarm soul. The comfortable soul. The good person who is so busy with the good things of this life, their careers, their entertainment, their hobbies, their striving for success that they have no room for the best thing. The fire of my love, the urgency of connection. They are not bad. They are just asleep. They are sleeping in a house that is on fire, Jesus continued, his voice a profound lament, heavy with the weight of humanity's collective slumber. They are playing games in a boat that is sinking. They think they are alive, they think they are fine, but they are ghosts. They have traded the divine adventure I have called them to the adventure of profound connection, of radical love, of vibrant presence for a comfortable, safe, and utterly meaningless existence. They have my name on their lips, perhaps, but not my fire in their hearts. They talk about heaven as a distant reward, but they are creating a quiet, unnoticed hell around them. A hell of isolation, of distraction, of unlived moments, of ungiven love. This, Sarah, is the shocking truth. The greatest tragedy is not a soul in hell. The greatest tragedy is a soul that never truly lived. A soul that never truly woke up to the vibrant, urgent, beautiful reality of its existence. They are dying of spiritual thirst, surrounded by an ocean of my love, because they have forgotten how to drink, forgotten how to be truly present, truly alive. They are waiting for me to save them from a future hell, but they are blind to the hell they are already living, the gray, muted existence they have chosen for themselves. And this prophecy, this vision, is not of a far-off future. It is happening now. It is unfolding with every choice of distraction, with every moment of indifference, with every ungiven act of love. If they do not turn, if they do not choose to wake up, the gray will become absolute. The spiritual death will become irreversible, and my Father's heart will break for the children who chose to sleep through their own lives. He turned to me then, and he knelt down again, his hands on my small shoulders. His eyes were burning with an urgent, divine plea that went straight to the core of my being. "This is why you must go back, Sarah," he said, his voice resonating with an authority that shook my very essence. You must go back and be my alarm clock. You must wake them up from their comfortable sleep. You are a child of their time, a native of their world of distraction. They will listen to you, perhaps, when they would not listen to the others. A part of me, the 11-year-old girl who had just found the safest, most loving place in the universe, cried out in desperate protest. I don't want to go back. It's so gray there. They won't listen. They'll just go back to their games and their busy lives. I want to stay here with you. Jesus seemed to hear my thought. He smiled, a sad, gentle smile. I know, little warrior. My love is not a peaceful garden to hide in. It is a blazing fire to be shared. You have felt my love. Now you must go and be my love. You have seen the truth. Now you must be my truth. They will not all listen. Many will dismiss you. But if you wake even one heart, if you create one golden ripple in that gray ocean, it is worth every moment of your struggle. His command was absolute, his purpose unwavering. Go and tell them, he commanded, his voice filling my entire being. Tell the children and the adults. Tell the busy and the distracted. Tell them to turn off the noise, to look up, to see each other. Tell them to choose connection over distraction, compassion over comfort, real love over virtual likes. Tell them to stop waiting for someone else to solve the problems of their world, or to bring them happiness. Tell them they are the solution. Tell them the game of life is real, and the stakes are higher than they can possibly imagine. Tell them to wake up, before it is too late. Go, Sarah. Be my voice. Be my alarm. This is your mission. The weight of the command was immense, a burden too great for an 11-year-old girl. But the love in his eyes, the profound sorrow for his sleeping children, compelled me. My own heart broke for the gray world I had just seen. I had to help him. I had to try. My soul, no longer a child's, gave its full consent. Okay, I said, the word a sacred vow. I'll go. The moment I agreed, the world of light and love, the divine presence of Jesus, vanished. I was not gently guided back. I was hurled, thrown, slammed back into the broken, aching prison of my physical body with a violent, agonizing jolt. A convulsive gasp for air tore through my small chest, a scream of pure, searing pain. My eyes flew open to the chaotic, flashing reality of an ambulance interior. A paramedic's face, startled and disbelieving, was inches from mine. She's breathing! She's got a pulse! I don't believe it! He yelled to his partner. We have brain activity! She's back! The next few days were a strange, disorienting blur of the intensive care unit, of beeping machines and hushed, astonished conversations between doctors and nurses who looked at my charts, then at me, then at each other, shaking their heads in professional bewilderment. Clinical death for at least 15 minutes, one doctor told my parents, his voice strained with disbelief. The brain damage should be catastrophic. For her to be conscious, let alone lucid, there is no medical precedent. It's truly a miracle. They were scientists looking at a shattered compass, unable to comprehend the divine territory I had just traversed. My mother was a constant, solid presence at my side. Her face was a landscape of profound relief and exhaustion, her prayer beads constantly moving through her fingers. Thank you, God, she would whisper, kissing my hand. You returned my child to me. Her prayers of gratitude were heartfelt, directed to the God we had always known. My father sat by my bed for hours, his face a mixture of joy and deep, unsettling confusion. He would hold my hand, his practical, capable mind struggling to grasp the impossible. He was a man who believed in cause and effect, and the effect of me being alive and lucid had no discernible cause that fit his worldview. When I was finally able to speak more than a few weak, raspy words, my parents were sitting with me, their eyes fixed on my face. I looked at them, my heart full of the urgent, burning message I carried, a fire that no amount of pain or skepticism could extinguish. Mom? Dad? I whispered, my voice weak and raspy, the words feeling clumsy and inadequate. I saw Jesus. He's so sad. He said everyone is asleep. My mother's eyes filled with fresh tears, this time not of joy, but of a quiet, profound understanding. Oh, my sweet child, she whispered, stroking my hair. Of course he is. He sees everything. My father's reaction was different. He forced a smile, but his eyes were full of a deep, loving concern, a concern that clearly thought I was disoriented or hallucinating. That's great, sweetie, he said, patting my arm. You had a very powerful dream. Your brain is just trying to make sense of what happened. It's normal to think about God after something like this. I looked at them, my two loving parents, and I knew how hard my mission was going to be. My mother heard my words as a confirmation of a deeper, more vulnerable faith. My father heard them as a symptom of my trauma, a psychological coping mechanism. Neither of them could yet comprehend the terrifying, urgent, and profoundly loving fire behind my simple words. Neither of them understood that I hadn't just had a nice dream about a kind storyteller. I had been given a direct, urgent command from a heartbroken king, a command about the very spiritual state of humanity. My physical recovery was long and arduous. I had to relearn simple movements, my body feeling alien and unresponsive at times. But through it all, the spiritual reality I had experienced was far more vivid than any physical pain. The world I returned to seemed fundamentally altered. The trivial worries that had once consumed my small world, what cartoon was on, whether I'd get the new doll now, seemed utterly meaningless. How could I care about such small things when I knew Jesus was weeping over a sleeping world? The casual unkindness of a classmate, the fleeting moments of dishonesty, the endless hours spent on entertainment, these were no longer just minor infractions. They were the gray haze, the spiritual equivalent of slow poison, the very things lulling humanity to sleep. My old life, my games, my carefree play, they all felt like hollow, meaningless things. I understood that every moment was a choice, a chance to make a golden ripple, a chance to awaken a heart, a chance to fight against the overwhelming tide of indifference. I tried to share my message, my urgent warning and profound revelation. I told my friends at school, we have to wake up. Jesus is real, and he's sad because we're all distracted, and he wants us to be truly alive. They would just stare at me with blank, bewildered faces, and then ask if I wanted to play tag. They thought I was weird, or perhaps still a little off from being sick. My words, so profound to me, were just strange noises to them. I tried to tell my Sunday school teacher, trying to explain that being good isn't enough, that the fire of God's love is meant to burn through their comfortable routines and quiet faith. She listened with a patient, patronizing smile. That's a very passionate thought, Sarah, she said. But let's focus on our lesson about kindness and obedience. Remember, God loves a cheerful giver. She was taking the fire I was trying to share and putting it in a neat, safe storybook box, taming it into something palatable, something that wouldn't disrupt her orderly classroom. My parents struggled. My mother, my great ally, worried incessantly. She saw my intensity, my newfound seriousness, and she wanted her happy, carefree girl back. She believed my vision but was afraid of its implications, afraid of what it would mean for my childhood, my future. She loved me fiercely and wanted to protect me from the pain of disbelief and ridicule. My father, in his own loving and practical way, tried to fix me. He got me into therapy, hoping a professional could help me process my trauma. He encouraged me to play sports, to reconnect with my old friends, to get back to being a normal kid. You need to focus on what's real, daughter, he would say, handing me a board game. But I couldn't go back. You cannot unsee what I had seen. You cannot unfeel the sorrow of God for his sleeping children. My greatest challenge and my greatest comfort was the profound change within my own heart. The selfish, thoughtless girl was gone. In her place was a child with an almost painful capacity for empathy, a desperate hunger to make golden ripples. I found myself drawn to the lonely kids, the ones who were being made fun of, the quiet ones others overlooked. I would sit with them, listen to them, not out of a sense of duty, but because I could literally feel their pain, and I knew that sitting with them, truly seeing them, was making a golden ripple, a tiny act of resistance against the gray worries and indifference of the world. My life became a quiet, often misunderstood, mission of awakening. I was a fire starter, but the only way I knew how to start fires was one small, warm act at a time, one quiet conversation, one shared moment of genuine presence. I am a woman now, with lines of wisdom etched around my eyes and the quiet strength of a purpose forged in the fire of revelation. The intensity of that 11-year-old girl has mellowed. but the conviction has only deepened. I have learned over the years that you cannot force someone to wake up. You cannot force them to see the spiritual reality that is hidden by the noise and distractions of the world. You can only try to be a light in their room, hoping it stirs them from their slumber. You can only be the alarm clock, ringing softly, persistently, lovingly, but with an unwavering urgency. My mother, before she passed, told me that my unwavering focus on love and presence, even in the hardest times, had deepened her own faith, had taught her that God was not just a distant figure, but a constant, yearning presence. She said my life was a living prayer. My father, before his passing, never fully embraced the spiritual explanation for what happened to me, but he saw the woman it made me into. "I don't know what you saw, Sarah," he told me in his final days, his voice rough with emotion. "But whatever it was, it made you the most loving, most awake person I know. And that, my daughter, is the greatest proof I ever saw of anything truly divine. My life is not what I would have imagined for a little girl who wanted to draw pictures and build block castles. I am not a famous preacher. I am a therapist, specializing in trauma and addiction, and my work is my ministry, my mission. I help people turn off their internal noise, turn away from their distractions, and turn towards their deepest selves, towards their raw pain, their buried dreams, and the urgent, tangible reality of their lives. My sermons are not in words, but in the act of listening, in holding a safe space, in helping them see the hidden spiritual battle within themselves and around them. My church is the therapy room, the quiet conversation, the moment of shared vulnerability, the hands reaching out for connection. And now, I must speak to you, directly, from the heart of that terrifying vision and the profound love that accompanied it. I am not here to tell you a comforting story about a distant heaven. I am here to share an urgent and profoundly loving message, a final prophecy. The God you may believe in, the kind figure in the clouds, the gentle shepherd, is also a living, breathing, cosmic fire who is heartbroken by our comfortable, lukewarm, spiritual sleep. He is not asking if you are a good person. He is not asking if you go to church or if you know all the rules. He is asking, with a divine and sorrowful urgency, are you truly alive? Are you awake? Is the fire of my love burning in your heart? Or have you contained it in a safe, respectable religious box, neatly separated from the urgency and messiness of real life? The terror I saw in Jesus' eyes was not for the fate of sinners in a fiery hell, but for the fate of the sedated, the distracted, the good people who are missing the entire point of their existence. The greatest tragedy is not a soul lost to hell, but a soul that passed through this world as a ghost, never truly waking up to the divine, fiery, dangerous, and glorious adventure of a life lived in and for the love of God. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. It is the main performance, and it is closer to eternity than you can possibly imagine. So, I ask you, as I ask myself every day, are you awake? Is there a fire in your heart? Are you truly living, truly seeing, truly connecting? Or are you comfortably asleep, distracting yourself while the world needs your awakened presence? Please, for the love of God and for the sake of the profound joy and beauty that is waiting for you, wake up. Turn off the noise. Look up. Look into the eyes of your neighbor. Feel the sun on your face. Listen to the wind. Plant a seed of love. The house is on fire, and the only thing that can save us is the very fire of love we have been so afraid to let in. The time for this final prophecy to be fulfilled, or averted, is now.